spending recklessly? Why does the Prime Minister continue to endanger our public finances? Now, all this business about spending on a credit card, isn't it really just defending and protecting Canada?
If the Conservatives want the truth, we'll tell them the truth.
Yesterday from the Prime Minister really freaked these Conservatives out because they saw the ambition in that speech. And not only did they see it in that speech today, as the Prime Minister stood with the Premier investing in new nuclear to ensure the jobs of today and the future, they know that the youth...
The only thing that's revolting are those answers.
Speaker, there's no lessons from these Conservatives. Trust me on that, Mr.
It's too bad that minister didn't write the Prime Minister's speech yesterday, because it wouldn't have bored and depressed to tears all of those poor students stuck in that room. There he spoke about how they would have to sacrifice more and that it would take time to reverse all of the misery that has built up over the last 10 years. Mr. Speaker, young people want to have homes. They want to have jobs. They want to have hope. They want a budget that is affordable so they can have a life that is affordable. Will the Prime Minister introduce that budget so that Canadians can restore the promise of their country?
And we decide what comes next.
Canada know that this government has their back. It will continue. There's going to be a powerful statement for the young people of Canada.
Driving inflation. The more Liberals spend, the more it costs Canadians at the grocery store. 25% of Canadians are using food banks because they can't afford to eat. So when will the Prime Minister finally get his inflationary deficits under control so Canadians can put food on the table?
Mr. Speaker, Conservative members pretend to care about food insecurity, but then they call feeding children garbage.
Mr. Speaker, what's garbage was that answer.
Did the Prime Minister see the ad before it went out?
Of course there are too many people living in poverty in Canada, but there are significant initiatives being put in place by this government.
Being serious means being honest and telling Canadians.
Canada's economy is in fact growing, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in those long, barren Harper years where this member was a minister, the only pipeline that got built was the pipeline full of hot air that led to nothing, not a single energy exporting tidewater piece of energy infrastructure was ever constructed under a Conservative government. We built one. You just heard the minister talking about a process on another. Mr. Speaker, you want to vote for energy security? You want to vote for energy exports? You want to vote for major projects and opportunity in this country? You should cast a little vote.
Better with the mic on. Hey, welcome to the Nap. My name is Jill, and this is the Nap on Occam's Razor, where we cover the no answer period. Where we cover the question period, which we call the no answer period. Prefaced by a review of some far left stuff going on in Canada. We usually start about 45 minutes prior to the question period, which never starts on time, by the way. Right? It's always preceded by statements by the members, and then, of course, the speaker runs the show as best he can, constantly chiding the members of Parliament in the lower house for not sticking to the schedule as best they can. Oh, I'm trying to keep everything on schedule. Anyways, during it, we keep score because, as you know, parliamentarians can lie like a rug and not be held to account for it. So we do a maximum of 3 lies per politician. If they start lying, sometimes they don't actually reach 3 lies because they're rambling on too much about just the one lie. And what we consider lies, well, we have in the description down below. And we also track, of course, their no answers. That's the naps. And sometimes they actually do provide answers, but typically only to their own members. When their own members of the government ask questions of their own members of the government, we call those FBQs, freebie questions, self-licking ice cream cone questions. It's a freebie for them, right? Because the answer is already pre-planned. It lets them show off. It's normal. And while we're doing that, we're just listening to the show. But prior to that, of course, we're going to cover some stuff. And I'd like to thank my followers and subscribers who have been following and subscribing. Thank you so much. Please give us a thumbs up, follow, share, like, subscribe, and if you're watching this on repeat, which is after the live show, please leave a comment down below. You will get an answer, and it drives the algorithm when I'm not driving the algorithm down with my forbidden words. So before we get to the first story, we had some issues with our free software that we're using for making videos. A lot of crashes, so I was actually surprised that I could actually get some of these videos done. A lot of restarts, a lot of reboots. I don't know if I'll be able to do much for videos tomorrow. And again, it looks like another software cleanup over the weekend. And so before we get into our events that surround our land, before we get to the nap, let's check out the most relevant supplement to the intro. That had something to do with those two people talking, and well, the intro turned into a bit of a tale on National Socialism, didn't it? Let's go to that.
Now, all this business about spending on a credit card, isn't it really just defending and protecting Canada? Isn't it really just defending and protecting Canada? Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is treating this budget like a credit card with no limits. In fact, the Parliamentary Budget Officer has confirmed that the government has abandoned its fiscal anchor. In my riding in Saguenay, there is a factory that's closing. Multiple families are losing their livelihood. They don't know how they will pay bills. Meanwhile, our Prime Minister is spending recklessly. Why does the Prime Minister continue to endanger our public finances? The Honourable Minister of Indigenous Services. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We should be talking about Indigenous families living in the regions in Quebec. Families in my riding, for instance. They want this budget, a budget which enhances and protects programs for vulnerable people, especially vulnerable people in their communities. Meanwhile, the opposition voted against that, Mr. Speaker. Now, all this business about spending on a credit card, isn't it really just defending and protecting Canada? Now, all this business about spending on a credit card, isn't it really just defending and protecting Canada?
The opposition. Well, we're hoping the Prime Minister will announce that he was wrong and that the Liberal government was wrong to kill the Northern Gateway pipeline that had been approved back in 2014. 9 years have since been lost after the Liberal government blocked it. However, they also put in a ban on shipping Canadian energy off the northwest coast of BC. So if there's a pipeline, while the Liberal ban remains in place, it would have to be a pipeline to nowhere. So will the Prime Minister admit that the Liberal government was wrong to ban Canadian energy shipping and scrap the ban so that we can pipe our product over to Asia?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, in those long, barren Harper years where this member was a minister, the only pipeline that got built was the pipeline full of hot air that led to nothing, not a single energy exporting tidewater piece of energy infrastructure was ever constructed under a conservative government. We've built one. You just heard the minister talking about a process on another. Mr. Speaker, you want to vote for energy security, you want to vote for energy exports, you want to vote for major projects and opportunity in this country, you should cast a liberal vote.
trying to choose between bills and feeding your kids. That's a direct quote from Thunder Bay mom Cassandra Shedden, who relies on formula to feed her infant child. She describes rummaging around her house, looking for things to sell just so she can put formula in her baby's bottle. Why won't the Prime Minister do something so that parents can afford to buy baby formula?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Well, Mr. Speaker, nobody should have to feel the fear that Cassandra feels. But I will note what Cassandra also said. She said she could hardly wait till the Canada Child Benefit arrived on the 20th of each month because it helped her feed her baby as she lived on Ontario disability, Mr. Speaker. And that member voted against Canada Child Benefit. She voted against school food, Mr. Speaker. She voted against the very people she has the temerity to stand up and quote in this House.
Member for Fort McMurray, Cold Lake.
Since 2017, inflation on baby formula is double what it is in the U.S. Double. We are overly reliant on imported infant formula, and we only have one plant in Canada, which means every single tax on transportation, every supply chain disruption, every single tariff threat hits Canadian families harder. This is due to a lack of any kind of action from any of these Liberals for the last 10 years. Will they finally make this a priority so that parents can afford to feed their babies formula?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Maybe the member didn't read the article where the Canada Research Chair, Ms. Leslie Frank, said that the Canada Child Benefit should be increased, which, by the way, it is every year, Mr. Speaker, because it's pegged to inflation, where the experts said that formula should be produced in Canada. In this budget, we have money for innovation in agriculture, Mr. Speaker. How does that member think that Canada will be able to do anything if she votes against Canadians' interests time and time again?
The Honourable Member for Fort McMurray, Cold Lake.
What's deeply wrong is the fact that parents are waiting every single day for those checks just so they can afford to put groceries on the table. What is deeply wrong is that mothers are begging strangers online for money just so they can afford to buy baby formula. What's deeply wrong is that parents are resorting to buying opened bottles and cases of formula, powdered formula, just so they can feed their kids. This is because of this government's lack of action. So will they actually do something other than just create more bureaucracy? We need action.
Hear, hear. The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, members like that one with the fake outrage as their colleagues stand up and vote against the very mother.
The Honourable Minister.
Just the other day, the member from Bowmanville, Oshawa North, suggested that hungry children should go without because parents should be able to afford to feed their kids. Well, you know what, Mr. Speaker, I have a newsflash. Single mothers like I were in my day needed all the help we could get, and that's what we do for moms every single day in this House.
The Honourable Member for Lethbridge.
This is from a minister who is completely out of touch with Canadians, who are struggling day in and day out to be able to afford the very basic necessities of life. Meanwhile, the members across the way heckle me while Canadians struggle and are going to the food bank in droves. That is because of this government's mismanagement, and they can do something about it. And one of the things that they can do about it is actually scrapping the fuel tax, which would bring down the cost of groceries. Why is this government hell-bent on keeping the fuel tax and making sure that Canadians cannot afford basic necessities?
The Honourable Minister.
The member opposite fails to acknowledge is that she voted against every measure that helps single mothers right now, every single day, whether it's fees reduced by early learning and childcare, whether it's access to dental care for children that don't have dental care benefits, whether it's fighting against school food, Mr. Speaker. These Conservatives stand up. They say they feel the pain of moms, especially single moms, but when push comes to shove, they vote against them time and again.
The honourable member for Lethbridge.
So what she is saying is that through socialist programs, Canadians can be provided for. That Canadians shouldn't be able to make ends meet on
There's nothing unparliamentary about that word. The honourable member for Lethbridge, from the top.
Food prices in this country have risen by 40%, which is way higher than 40% faster than the United States of America, which goes to prove that it has a whole lot to do with this government and its socialist policies. Now, Stats Canada shows that beef is up 17%, chicken is up 6%, apples is up 4%, and baby formula is up 6%. The most stolen item in a grocery store because parents are desperate due to this government's mismanagement. So, folks are suffering. I hosted a town hall last week. Their faces, their stories came forward. These are more than stats, folks. What will this government do about it?
The honourable minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, that's why I'm so proud to be a Liberal, because Liberals believe in helping each other. We believe that when a single mom is having a tough time, we should be there for her. We believe that when a family's down on their luck, we should have an employment insurance program that helps people out when they lose their job. We believe that when people can't access dental care for sometimes up to 20 years and live in pain, we should do something about that as a country. And you know what, Mr. Speaker? That's what Canadians believe. It's why we're known for our universal health care system, Mr. Speaker, because we care about each other.
There we go. That's much better with the mic on there. The rest of the episode there is just basically like, share, subscribe, and the end of the tune is playing in the background. So if you want to see that, just watch it on the channel. Appreciate that. Let's get into our preamble stories and go straight to the show. Let's go. And that's the wrong one. What is that going on there? Well, that's really strange. I have no idea where that's coming up. That's much better. So I got this one little clip that I've wanted to use, and I haven't been able to get the sound to work on my streaming software. And it has to do with one of the stories that are coming up. If I get to it, I didn't get to it all week. So anyways, first things we cover, of course, is, oh, maybe we should clear off that scorecard. We don't need to see that. And why is that showing? Much better. We start off at Creighton's Right with an update on the ostrich farm. So it turns out that they were told some incorrect information. Now, there's some latest interviews here revealed how the people are fighting back, which we kind of covered yesterday, and the cops have a year to charge Katie and her mom now. So let us go into, that's not it. That's not it either. There we go.
What are the breaking news coming from the BC farm?
Well, it's really incredible because yesterday I broke the news that Katie and her mom had their charges dropped.
Mm-hmm.
And it was incredible. I was the first one out with the story. I called Katie in the morning and she said, "Guess what, David? The charges have been dropped." I said, "Oh, thank God. That's wonderful news." And of course, went on air about that. And a couple of other people reported it later in the day. Then I called Katie this morning because we're working on a couple of things. And she says, "You wouldn't believe this." She says, I'll have to put this gently. That information was relayed to us incorrectly. When we read it ourselves, it was clear the charges weren't dropped. The charges had yet to be assessed. And I said, "What? They don't know what they're going to charge you with?" And she says, "Not only that, they have a full year to find out what we're charged with. So they can go through all of our social media. They can go through everything that was said during the occupation of their farm and say, 'Oh, looks like we got you for mischief here. Looks like you talked that RCMP officer out of hand. Looks like you might have impeded the activity of the CFIA inspector.' All of this crap. And of course, they did absolutely nothing of the sort. But you watch them accuse them of it. You just watch that happen. Hopefully it doesn't happen. Obviously, I'm not suggesting this is something that's inevitable, but the way things have gone for this poor family at this farm, they have had their farm steamrolled, and it looks like the only thing I can describe it as, have you ever seen the leftovers from a Roman
Yeah, so that's it. So of course now it's being compared to what they did to the Freedom Convoy, right? They will just cherry pick and then go after them because the process is the punishment here. And they know that the CFIA has done such a horrible job and they've broken a lot of laws themselves. A lot of people are saying, how come you're not charging the CFIA? And they're starting to record all these things that they've done. Aside from all the animal cruelty, and they've contaminated that entire farm with their stupidity, and they're not doing anything to clean it up. Huge environmental disaster, abuse of animals. But they're going to wait a year to charge Katie. Wonderful. Let's to our piece here. Zooms up. There we go. Come on. What? Who just who did? Well, basically, it was a announcement telling the Green Party leader who's going to tell her. And she's going on about, oh, we can't allow oil tankers to be off the West Coast, and not realizing that they've been traveling back and forth along the coastline from Alaska to the States for years and years, and they haven't stopped since they've had the ban. The ban is only affecting us. The bans are only making it worse for Canada. Now, here's Donald Best. Talking about Team Canada's 2026 Olympic uniform. Look at this monstrosity, because nothing says world-class nation like whatever this is. Like, what the hell is that? It doesn't even look functional. Are those actual sleeves? It looks like it wants to fall off. It doesn't look comfortable. Are there pockets? I had no idea. And somebody's even said it kind of looks satanic too, right? When you got the two eyeballs there, right here and here with these red, whatever that is. It's, my goodness. You know, it's I think it's a perfect representation of our liberal democracy, autocracy, totalitarian fascism, of everything that is going on. Okay, a little moose on a loose here. So, as we know, apparently our prime minister has an ethics screen that screens him from the decisions that he makes as a prime minister that apparently are not making him rich, but are. And there's some really telling questions and non-answers that are coming from the friend that Carney hired to be his ethics screener. And basically, the argument goes something like this. Well, as an ethics screener, we just screen basically on a roundabout way about things that are happening. And if we think there's an issue, then we will go to the ethics guy and say, hey, you need to go in and have a look. And they're like, well, if you don't even know what's in the portfolio, then how can you actually know when to go talk to the ethics guy on behalf of the prime minister? Well, we kind of know in a roundabout way if he's making. Well, hang on now. So, anyways, listen to this. It's kind of crazy.
Enterprise. That's where.
No. You can't have it like that. He's basically saying, well, because there isn't a specific company named, which Mark Carney has named specific companies. He has named the Red Chris mine. He's invested in the Red Chris mine. He has named Westinghouse Nuclear Services, which he's invested in through Brookfield. But he's saying because he's talking about general sectors, this doesn't apply. But Mark Carney is pushing everything through this low carbon net zero agenda to the Stripe program. So all of it does apply because everything he pushes will benefit this. And he's invested in this on the ground level. That's how Carney designed this. He's a very smart man. Unfortunately, he's not using his smarts to help us. He architected this entire thing so when he'd get in the office, he'd be able to run this and it looks like everything's squeaky clean, but it isn't. Between the whole Stripe program here, the Frontier program, and boosting this, the carbon credit system, and as Michael Barrett has pointed out here, the Brookfield Transition Funds and the Catalytic Transition Fund here, Carney doesn't need to name specific companies. He just needs to drive as much business and policy towards net zero, low carbon, and it'll boost the value of all of these. Because he'll start bringing in more investors to pump these up, and then he'll make money from the whole carbon credit system up here. This is a direct conflict of interest. Mark Carney is using Canada as his own little piggy bank to get rich, and he doesn't care the warpath that he's ripping through our country doing it. Like, real people's lives are being ruined because of this. Not once has this guy proven that there's a business case to be low carbon. Where's the data? There's not one piece of data that proves this to be true. And he'll argue the UK, the EU. Once again, if we look here on trading economics, we have exports, Canada by country. United States takes up 77%, 3.9% from China. The UK is 3.6%. As for the EU, you'll see the countries down here. You got Netherlands, 5 billion, Germany, 4.6 billion. It's nothing compared to the 419 billion coming from America. We can't replace all of our business with this low carbon garbage from a couple of countries when really we need to be trading with America. They know this. This is a green grift. And this guy's trying to help Mark Carney get away with it. Now, I don't know exactly how he's profiting off of this because he sold his stocks in Brookfield. Maybe he's got investments in China. Next up, we got Michael Cooper. He nails him on exactly what I said. You can't have Michael Sabia be the ethics screen when Mark Carney appointed him. This should be Jason Jocks or someone else that's completely independent.
Mr. Sabia, I want to make sure I understood your answer to a question posed by Mr. Majumder, in which you, as I understood you said that the ethical standards that apply within the Government of Canada and specifically to this Prime Minister, are more robust than those standards that apply in the case of the institutional investment world. Did I get that right?
I would say they're as good or better.
As good or better. So I want to ask you, in follow-up to a question that Mr. Hardy asked you, which you didn't give a direct answer, and it's very straightforward, and that is, where in the institutional world is there a situation, is there an example where a subordinate screens their direct boss for conflicts of interest? Just an example, please.
Well,
sorry about that, guys. Just go straight to his answer.
I think you mischaracterize the relationships between, for instance, in this case, the head of the public service and the Prime Minister. The public service in Canada.
Mr. Sabia, you're a subordinate of the Prime Minister. You serve at his pleasure. He brought you out. He brought you in from the outside. You were not within the civil service. You were effectively a political appointment.
Well, wait a second. I do not regard myself as a political appointment. You're entitled to your own conclusions.
You just said before I opened my round that you're serving because
Mr. Cooper, the point
Mr. Carney asked you.
But Mr. Cooper,
Carney asked you, and he could fire you, couldn't he?
Yeah.
And I look forward to whenever that happens. But Mr. Cooper,
this guy got caught. Cooper blowing this wide open. This is so dumb that Mark Carney appointed this guy. This guy's screening Carney, and he doesn't even know what Mark Carney invested in with those green stocks that he makes money from. This is.
Yeah. So you have to think, you have to ask yourself every single thing that the Liberals have been pushing forward now, policy-wise. They've all been linked somewhere with some kind of incentive for the green stuff. Right? There's anything for business, right? There'll probably be a little thing in there. Oh, you have to follow the gender ideology, the DEI, and the carbon neutral net zero, green scam, gender rights contributions, whatever it is, and carbon capture and carbon credits too, and all that stuff. And if you're not including that in your business model when you go to ask for some money from the government that they're saying they're putting out there to stimulate the the business environment, then you don't get the money because it's all a green grift being controlled by the Liberals on behalf of Mark Carney and his G-Fans climate cartel, right? So here he is right now, overseas, once again, doing his 5th trip around the planet with His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan. And apparently he's ready to capitalize on massive economic opportunities between Canada and the UAE. Right. So, so this investment, right? That's Canada again, right? Canada investing. Investing what? Investing something that's going to be some green carbon neutral fuel thing, right? So they're not just going to go straight to him and use the energy resources or interact with our energy resources the way they are. No, they're going to have to be filtered through some kind of carbon neutral green scam for him to make his money. Those funds that they were just talking about in that video. So many people don't know this. You know, you got to tell your friends. Don't tell your friends to watch Moose on a Loose and get over to his free spreadsheet that he has set up. This is what I wanted to show here. Talking about the green scam. Who's going to tell her? Melissa says there's no chance in God's green earth that there will be an oil tanker in the BC North Coast. She says, but apparently there's already a lot of tanker traffic along the West Coast. Meanwhile, let's look at the home prices over the years, and look at some years back when I bought my first properties. Let's see, around 2000. Oh, I bought around the right time, pretty well. And of course, then I had to move around here, to where I'm living now. And I guess look, and then properties recovered again, and look, they're dropping back down again. And why is all this happening? Why? How did we have such a massive spike? We know why. We know why, because they increase the demand without increasing the availability. Right? And even right now, apparently they're boasting about, oh, home construction is up. Yeah, the stuff that's selling off the rack and the stuff that's being completed right now in the Toronto condo area. Projects that were started like a decade ago, if not longer, that are finally getting completed. But the problem is there's been almost next to no housing starts for the entire year. All our craftsmen and our tradesmen that are building homes have been shutting down and moving down south or moving on to other businesses or figuring out what the hell they're going to do next if they even want to stay in this country because nobody wants to build houses. No, the only things that are building houses now apparently are large modular corporations. And that's the future that they want for you, isn't it, Canada? Oh, you want to buy a house? Here's a catalog. Pick something from this. Other than that, you don't really deserve to have a house. Really? Oh, look at this. Minister of Immigration cancels requirement that refugees undergo medical exam when applying for permanent residency. Borders, language, and culture, folks. If you don't maintain those, you lose your country. And that's what the Liberals have been doing for the past decade. They've been destroying our borders with situations like this. And then people ask, how do we have a tuberculosis outbreak? How is it that we no longer have a measles-free status on the world? Because of stupid stuff like this. canceling the requirement for refugees to undergo medical exam when applying for permanent residency. Because, we'll take anyone regardless of what disease you are going to bring into the country. And I'm not saying migrants are disease. I'm saying that we had a medical process. The century before that, I should say, the United States, when they were bringing all their people, then they were processing them through an island first. That made a lot of sense. You stick them all on the island, you put them on the mainland, because you never know what they're bringing back from overseas, from wherever they came from Europe, from Africa, wherever they're migrating from. Now, of course, today we have people migrating all the time, landing at airports, not being medically screened whatsoever. Maybe that's their thinking. But there's deeper requirements. What if you're allowing people in that have health issues that are only going to burden our health system even more? Other countries have those rules. Why can't Canada? No. Because Canada, according to the Liberals, has no borders, right? These are globalists. They want to destroy Canada. They want to be part of a global community. But that means erasing Canada's culture and identity. And speaking of lies, because all they do is lie like a rug, now the Liberals insist their strategy on trade is not to talk to Donald Trump. Toronto Star says, well, Carney was once in nearly a 24/7 back and forth texting relationship with Trump. They've had no contact on trade since the APEC summit in Korea. They've given up, right? And that was his plan all along, right? Because once Trump shut the door on his green scam, he knew that I guess we're going to have to go all over the other planet and get deals for all over the place if I want to be able to funnel money and so-called investment into his green portfolios. Because you got to ask yourself, right? Since April last year, when he said that, you got to vote for me because if you don't, the other guy, he can't get a deal. I'm the banker. I know all these things. I can get the deal. I can get the economy fixed again. I'm sorry about the last guy, but we're the new government now. Seems like the new government spending twice as much as the last government. Oh boy. Speaking of clowns, Canada's economy is firing on all cylinders, says Ryan Turnbull, but Conservatives would rather tear it down than build it up. Whose side are they on, right? And this is the same socialist slogan rhetoric that I was showing in my video earlier on in the stream. And of course, what does this clown do? What he does is he cuts out him talking in question period, stating a bunch of lies, right? And of course, he can't be called out on those lies by being called a liar in the lower house. And when he could be here, but apparently he blocks his comments to only those accounts that he follows or mentions. Now, apparently, one snuck through, but this wasn't here earlier. What does this say? Patrick Farrell says, no, it isn't. What alternative reality are you living in? Housing starts are still insufficient. The job market is terrible. Cost of living has not improved in a meaningful way. And major infrastructure and energy projects continue to languish on paper. Yeah, especially the ones that keep being reintroduced over and over again as if they're brand new when they're not. And all they do is lie. Oh, why you lie all the time? Speaking of calling people out on lies, Ron is a gem. Language warning because Ron doesn't give a shit.
Done with these fucking announcements. Hey, I don't know about you, but I'm about fucking done with these fucking announcements of stuff that's already happening. Like, how many fucking times can the Prime Minister announce a new project that turns out was announced 8 years ago? Not fucking kidding. So they ran it when he's talking about some mine in New Brunswick. So there he is. Oh yeah, we're going to have this important project. New Brunswick's going to be so fucking good. And then some smartass on TikTok put up a video of the minister, Romeo LeBlanc, who's from New Brunswick, from 8 years ago. Like, his hair's a little fucking darker and he's looking a little sharper. But he's saying, yeah, we're going to open this mine now. It's the same fucking mine. Like, for the love of fucking Christ. Like, this is crazy. We have a prime minister running around all parts of Canada, standing behind a podium, pointing at shit, talking about building, build. They're already announced. They're already existing fucking things that were moving through the system. But because everything moves so fucking slow in Canada, you can announce them again. Yeah, announce them fucking 8 years later. Just keep announcing. We'll probably announce them again 5 years from now. Fuck me. This is fucking nuts. It's nuts. Like, oh, and this thing they're building for liquid natural gas, they're going to do this thing that's like a big boat. It's a huge ship that does the liquid natural gas. They're building that in Korea out of Korean steel and Chinese steel. Like, we're all fucked on steel in Canada, but the Prime Minister's doing something where we're going to bring the fucking thing in from another country and then stick a liquid natural gas hose in it or some fucking thing. Like, how the fuck do I know? I'm not an engineer. Stick some natural gas pipe in this ship and liquid natural gas spits out the other end. Okay, but why the fuck can't we build anything in Canada? Like, yes, fuck off on your stuff from Korea and China and all that other shit. We need jobs in Canada, for fuck's sakes. Why aren't we building it here? This makes no fucking sense. Like, the patience is just running out of me. Prime Minister Carney, can you please announce a project that's actually brand fucking new? A project, how about this? How about you announce a bunch of fucking oil pipelines that are going to go to the West Coast? Yeah, Dave Eby, fuck yourself, okay? They're going to go to the West Coast so we can sell stuff to China, who's got a shit ton of money to pay us. Okay, let's do that. Let's run natural gas and oil all the way to fucking Quebec so that we don't have to buy Saudi oil. Yeah, that's it. That's the truth. Quebec runs their gasoline on Saudi oil. Yeah, are we fucking stupid or what? Okay, why don't you do that? Announce something brand fucking new that's actually going to do something. Please start doing that.
Ron has his own YouTube channel as well. He's in real estate. Please go watch his stuff. Now, fluoride in drinking water. Apparently, now this, remember, public service announcement. We have it, right? Oh, geez, I deleted it. This is a Quality Canadian Journalism Organization, QCJO, right? They're subsidized by our tax dollars to the tune of close to 30 grand per employee in order to produce their news so that they can put out junk like this about fluoride in the drinking water. As you know, Calgary decided to start fluorinating their water last year. And people are like, oh, well, I just won't drink it. I'll drink other stuff. And I'm saying, well, I'm sorry, guys. If you shower in it, it's going to get into you. It's going to contaminate you. And what am I? Am I a scientist? No, I'm not a scientist. No, I'm a former aircraft technician who knows how to read MSDS sheets. Now, first thing that says to me is like fluoride is not natural, right? It's garbage that produces a side effect, and they decided to try to do something with it, and they found a use for it apparently. Now, the fluoride that they use in water has 3 compounds: fluorosilicic acid, sodium fluorosilicate, and sodium fluoride, and each and every single one of them has their own MSDS sheets. They're safety data sheets on what to do if you're exposed to this stuff. Now, of course, these are higher concentrations, but if you look at it, it'll go right into there and say harmful if swallowed, toxic if contact with skin, causes severe skin burns and eye damage. Now, of course, this is completely diluted in like parts per million, but it's poison. I don't care if it's got some side effects on it that are beneficial. Oh, look, it's good for your teeth, but it's poison. It's in higher concentrations, it's poison. So why would you want to increase the amount of poison in your body, even in the smallest amounts? Sodium silicate fluoride. If I go down, let's go down to harmful. Is there some precautions there? Engineering, personal, splash goggles, lab coat, dust respirator. Be sure to use an approved certified respirator or equivalent. You shouldn't even be breathing around this stuff, but you're going to shower in it and misting it around you and then breathing it into your lungs. And the sodium fluoride stuff itself. Irritant, skin irritation, eye irritation, acute toxicity, oral, dermal, inhalation category. Yes, all in higher concentration. And of course, it's diluted to make it safe. But why? Why would you just add more poison in your body in this poisonous environment that we already have that has so many contaminants in there from our industrialization? This is BS. This is government funded propaganda once again, trying to tell people what is safe. And then, of course, then they'll call you, what, a fluoride denier? because that's their first go-to. It's to deny, it's to call people denialists whenever they disagree with government control or government direction that is obviously not healthy for you. I'm looking at the time here, still statements by members. And EU silences criticism. Polish MEP Mike Cutt sparks fury after he calls Ursula Reichsführerin, which is a female version of Reichsführer. And if you don't follow EU politics, you probably won't get this, but things are not going well in Germany. The AfD is poised to take over the government with the next election, which they don't want because the far left wants to control everything, like they do here in Canada. And a lot of the stuff she's done is the same crazy stuff that they have been doing right here in Canada. Are we still in statements by members? Yes, we are. Let's listen to this fella.
So, you've heard Madam Reichsführerin von der Leyen expressing once again her belief that by the insane policy of decarbonization, that is devastation and poverty, she really changes temperatures all over the continent. She thinks she's some kind of rain whisperer, some sorcerer. She's dangerous. She should be put in some madhouse instead of. This is my political diagnosis. This is my political recommendation.
It is insulting. I call you to order and ask you to use language that is appropriate and appropriate for this chamber. Otherwise, I will cut you off.
Once again, please, Madam Chair. Once again, I couldn't hear the translation.
I was saying that you have to use language appropriate to this chamber, or I'll cut you off. It's not possible to insult representatives of European institutions as you just did. So, if you want to speak, use appropriate language. Otherwise, I won't let you speak.
Okay, could you please, Madam Chair, advise me which particular word that I used is inappropriate?
I'll cut you off. You called President von der Leyen a Nazi, and that's unacceptable. It's not possible. So if she...
I referred to her position here. I call her Reichsführerin von der Leyen because this is the way she executes the superpower that you gave her, which is wrong, which is deeply wrong. Thank you very much, Madam Reichsführerin von der Leyen, for making my life so much easier, for making my work so much easier, because after you present, just another time, you present your vision of spending more and more money of European taxpayers for your insane projects like Migration Pact, like Green Deal, like continuation of war in Ukraine. It's much easier to explain to my compatriots that the only reasonable way we have to choose is Polexit.
Isn't that weird? It's the same things going on right here in Canada. Green scam, wasting our money, uncontrolled migration into Canada with over 1 million this year already, and getting us involved in a war in Ukraine, spending money there that we can't afford. I know we haven't sent them billions in a couple of months there, so I think we're probably due. And they're still doing statements by members. And what do we got here? That's not it. Still statement by members. The contents of this post related to the relationship between RCMP and FBI and DEA are both fabricated and false. So Kevin M. Vickers here, former Liberal Party of New Brunswick and Sergeant at Arms in Parliament. I wonder if that was. I think that's the guy that actually had to draw his sidearm when that terrorist actually made it into the Parliament. A couple of years back, about that time when I was still being chastised for trying to warn about stuff like that. Anyways, so he says, "Oh, it's all BS." Well, unfortunately for him, Sam Cooper is a well-recognized independent journalist, and he has his sources pretty well lined up, and everything that he has been talking about that he has predicted has come to pass. And especially when it comes to the drug situation in Canada and the illegal drug cartels running. Well, of course, all drug cartels are illegal. I'm sorry, I'm just looking at. Oh, there's still statements by members. And of course, what did the United States say? They said, clean up your stuff in Canada. You're not cleaning up. And then of course, Canada, what have we done since April? Absolutely nothing. There was a couple of choppers that were rented for a couple of weeks, and that was it. Did they really start? No, they're still like right now. They're trying to get this funding through to get more CBSA guards trained and stuff, but that doesn't make any sense because I understand how training facilities work in the government, and you got your training schools. All you have to do is go to the school and say, "Okay, we're ramping up and we're recruiting. Let's start up the classes." The stuff already. Where were they training them to start with? They didn't have to go to a new facility. Well, yes, they did. They had to go to an old recruiting facility and start that back up again. But what he's saying here about Sam Cooper is not correct. And it looks like we are starting. So let's go into the house. We'll just back this up a little here, make sure we're at the very beginning, and get some sound on.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister's deal with Canadians was elect him and he would get us a win on tariffs. Since then, he's taken over 20 trips, which might be worth it if he actually came home with better deals, but he's not. After meeting with the U.S., tariffs are even higher than before. After meeting with China, we now have new tariffs on grain and seafood. India put new tariffs on peas after their meeting. He claimed to have some kind of special ability that would result in new trade deals, but it turns out he's not that special. He's just another Liberal. Will the Prime Minister admit that he's trailing on fade, or is making things worse part of some genius strategy?
The Honourable Minister of International Trade.
Mr. Speaker, today our government took another step forward in our commitment to double non-U.S. trade over the next decade and diversify our economy. While in the UAE, the Prime Minister signed a foreign investment promotion and protection agreement to create a more predictable environment for two-way investments. And we launched negotiations for Canada-UAE Comprehensive Economic Partnership trade deal. This agreement would cut tariffs, remove trade barriers, and expand market access for Canadian exporters. With a signed FIPA and launch of CEPA, we are opening doors, creating new markets, and creating opportunities for Canadian workers and businesses, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Regina Capel.
That's such a typical Liberal, eh? Things are always just about to start getting better. Meanwhile, actual tariffs keep going up. Now, one way to increase trade with other countries would be with a pipeline to British Columbia's west coast. But the Liberals killed Northern Gateway in 2016, resulting in billions in lost opportunities for Canadian workers and businesses. Now there's talk of reviving that pipeline, but of course, if the shipping ban stays in place, no one will be able to actually export what comes through the pipe. The Liberals made it illegal to ship Canadian energy off Canada's west coast. Does that law also ban U.S. tankers from traveling through the same area?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, Canada has a tremendous opportunity to be a leading energy superpower. This government was elected to deliver nation-building projects, strengthen our economy, reinforce Canadian autonomy, advance Indigenous prosperity while contributing to clean growth. We are working with all the provinces, including Alberta, to achieve these shared objectives. The federal government has been engaged in constructive talks with the government of Alberta, and we will have more to say in a few weeks.
The Honourable Member for Regina Capel.
Again, after 10 years, we're just on the cusp of things all coming together, Mr. Speaker. But I can answer the question that the Minister didn't answer himself. The answer is no. While the Liberals have made it illegal for Canadian companies to load Canadian ships with Canadian oil, U.S. tankers can continue to travel off BC's coast and take their oil to countries around the world. As we speak, the U.S. crude oil tanker California is traveling from Tacoma to Alaska along that west coast. Why are the Liberals keeping in a law that prevents Canada from exporting our oil while U.S. tankers travel through the exact same place?
I know the honourable member across the aisle is not happy, but the Premier of Alberta has said she's quite supportive of what we're doing and is looking forward to finishing the conversations with the Prime Minister.
L'honorable député de Charlebourg.
The honourable member for Charlebourg, Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, since the Prime Minister took office, he has made over 20 international trips under the guise of wanting to make Canada wealthier, but he has accomplished the complete opposite. During his 4 trips around the world, Donald Trump's tariffs have doubled, tariffs on aluminum are at 50%, tariffs on lumber have tripled, and thousands of Canadians have lost their jobs. Every time he travels, we're left with new tariffs. Can the Prime Minister put his passport away so he can stay in Canada and take care of Canada? The Honourable Minister of Canada-U.S. Trade. Mr. Speaker, our colleague knows full well that our government was elected to take care of trade with other countries around the world. We have a very ambitious plan. That's the plan Canadians voted for during the election. My colleague may be a bit confused. Often, a government leader travels, for instance, the trip to the United Arab Emirates, where, good news, we signed a very big, important deal with that important investor, and we will continue to work for the Canadian economy. The Honourable Member for Charlebourg, Haute-Saint-Charles. Well, you were elected under false pretenses. You said that you would fix things with Donald Trump, and they've totally failed, Mr. Speaker. Meanwhile, there are issues with the Canada Revenue Agency. The cost of bureaucracy in Canada has risen by over 80% since the Liberals came to power, and now there are hundreds of thousands of Canadians who can't access their files online. Nearly 1 million Canadians can't access their files online. Callers to the CRA are receiving false information. The minister said that he would fix that. Can he update us on his progress? The Honourable Minister for Government Transformation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm happy to inform my colleague that, as was announced by the Finance Minister in the fall, we have a 100-day plan to ensure that Canadians receive reliable, accurate, quick service from the Canada Revenue Agency. We doubled call centre capacity at the CRA. 10% of Canadians Canadian callers get an answer within 10 minutes, and no one has to call the CRA to access their file anymore. Everyone has access to their file, so the Minister of Finance's plan is working well. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Charlebourg, Haute-Saint-Charles. Sure, well, let's talk about that then. Former Minister Diane Leboutillier in 2015 made cuts, and they just cut at the CRA. But it gets worse, Mr. Speaker. Canadians every day visit us in our riding offices to tell us about the problems they're having with the CRA. Sometimes they cry. They say, we can't access CRA services. I'm trying to fix things. So can the government acknowledge that this is an emergency situation? It's very serious. And can they fix the mess at the CRA? The Honourable Minister. That's exactly what we're doing, Mr. Speaker. We acknowledge that Canadians have the right to quick, accurate, reliable CRA services, but now the portal is working. Also, as for calls, 10% of callers have access to support agent within 15 minutes, and we fix the problem of people not accessing their files. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister had 2 choices this week. First choice, go to Brazil to COP30 and show that he's not completely giving up on the fight against climate change. Choice number 2, go to the Middle East and make deals with petro-monarchies. What did he choose? The petro-monarchies. Just like he chose oil companies in the budget by offering them billions in tax credits and exempting them from a cap on their greenhouse gas emissions. And to think that before the Prime Minister got into politics, he promoted green finance. Does the Prime Minister realize that by betraying his values, he's also betraying the former director of Équiterre, who sits to his right? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister did indeed have a choice regarding what to do this week. What did he choose? He chose to be here in the House 2 times to vote for our historic budget. It's historic for Quebecers. It's historic for Canadians. This Prime Minister will always act in the best interests of Canada. He will always act to get good opportunities for Canada. He will always work to build and to improve opportunities for Canada, and especially for Quebecers, Mr. Speaker. The Bloc Québécois should do the exact same. The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, while the Prime Minister boycotted the Conference of Parties to meet with sultans in Abu Dhabi, Canada received a volley of criticism. Nearly 2,000 organizations from around the world awarded Canada the Fossil of the Day Award for backtracking in the fight against climate change. Canada is a world champion of pollution. Interestingly enough, the last time Canada received the Fossil Award was in 2014. We remember that at that time, the Canadian Prime Minister was also boycotting the COP. It was Stephen Harper at the time. Is this a coincidence, or is this because the Liberals are setting us back 10 years? The Honourable Government House Leader.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, the United Arab Emirates are among the top investors in renewable energy, among the top investors in the world. The Honourable Member for Repentigny. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is true to his kind in snubbing the Conference of Parties to meet with petro-monarchies. Because what is Canada? It is a petro-monarchy. That's Canada's identity. Canada received a Fossil Award at the COP. Just like other petro-monarchies, Canada ranked 61st out of 67 countries in the Climate Performance Index alongside petro-monarchies. And today the Liberals again want to backtrack and work with Alberta to build a new dirty oil pipeline. That's Canadian identity, Mr. Speaker. But the Minister of Canadian Identity, meanwhile, he didn't used to support that. So how can he support it today? The Honourable Minister of Environment and Climate Change. Mr. Speaker, I was there at the Conference of Parties. I met with environmental organizations from around the world. They told us that Canada has an important role and is playing an important role in fighting climate change and bringing countries together. Not only that, but we are building Canada strong. We are working with other countries who want our clean green energy. We have clean energy to sell, and we are ready to make those deals.
Calgary, Midnapore.
In 2006, the Harper government saw the need for an independent parliamentary fiscal watchdog, and boy, were they right. In his budget brief last week, the PBO reminded the Prime Minister of the Liberals' own words just last November, that reducing the federal debt to GDP ratio over the medium term is key not only for fiscal sustainability, but also to preserve Canada's AAA credit rating. Well, less than a year later, and the alarm bells are ringing. How many more times does this Prime Minister need to be reminded to rein in his spending of taxpayers' dollars?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, earlier today in this chamber, the member for Calgary-Midnapore said the Prime Minister's loyalty was not to Canada or to Canadians. That is a direct... I would invite her to retract that statement at this very time.
Apologize. The Honourable Member for Calgary-Midnapore.
The Prime Minister's costly credit card budget loads reckless spending today on tomorrow's taxpayers, something an economist should know. After...
Okay. The Honourable Member for Calgary-Midnapore may continue, please. Continue.
This Prime Minister's loyalties are to Brookfield. The Prime Minister's costly credit card budget loads reckless spending today onto tomorrow's taxpayers, something an economist should know. After 10 years of these Liberals, Canadians are being forced to put nearly 50% more of their personal expenses on credit cards, a result of Liberal financial failures. Fitch Ratings has warned that because the Liberals are ignoring their own fiscal...
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I don't think debate in this chamber is served by challenging a Prime Minister who has stood up for public service in Canada, challenging his patriotism or his service to his country. I know that member doesn't believe those things. I would invite her to restrain her comments with respect to the Prime Minister's feelings about the country and about the people that he serves, and I would once again invite her to retract those comments.
Wow. Oh, especially after today in committee or yesterday in committee, showing that he's still heavily invested in Brookfield, and this is a Brookfield budget, and they don't like it at all. That people are pointing out in public that he is just so deep in ethics violations. Not that they're real ethics violation because there's not much of a fine.
The honourable member for Regina Luban.
After 10 years of reckless spending by these Liberals, Canadians have forced to put 50% more of their expenses on credit cards since 2015. It's so bad that the budget watchdog has condemned the Liberal spending, saying, and I quote, "It's unsustainable and shocking." When will the Prime Minister finally put an end to his out-of-control spending spree so Canadians can put food on their table?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, on one side of the House, we have continued tired, old rhetoric. The same questions that question a Prime Minister with world-class business and economic experience versus a leader from the Conservatives that has been in this House for 20 years, hasn't had a job outside of this House. On this side of the House, we're focused on building a strong economy. We're focused on making historic investments in infrastructure, defense, housing, transport. Mr. Speaker, on this side, we're serious about the economy. They continue with the same old, tired rhetoric.
The honourable member.
So isn't it amazing how, on one hand, you have McKinnon saying, "Well, the Prime Minister stood up to do public service. Nobody should be questioning that." Well, meanwhile, the leader of the opposition, who has stood up for service for 20 years, instead of being out there making himself rich and coming in with a bunch of financial portfolios that he won't get rid of. See, unlike Prime Minister Carney, Pierre Poilievre does not have a huge financial portfolio. In fact, he divested himself, right? He's ethical, whereas the Prime Minister is not. These people always project exactly what it is they're doing on to others. That's how these cultural Marxists work.
For Regina Luban.
That minister should be tired of having a reckless record when it comes to CRA. And fix the CRA before he fixes anything else. That's right. The agency that gives the government its credit score says that since the Liberal government frequently ignores their fiscal anchors, the federal finances run into a further risk of deteriorating. A simple question to the Prime Minister is, when will he take his job seriously and get Canada's finances back on track so that Canadians can afford a life?
The Honourable Secretary of State.
Mr. Speaker, on April 28th, Canadians had a choice to make between two visions for the country. One was a vision of slogans and divisiveness. On this side, our Prime Minister, with world-class business and economic experience, had a plan to build our country, to invest in our country, to build our country by Canadians, for Canadians. Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, we are serious about building a stronger Canada, a Canada for everyone. That side is not. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Dufferin-Caledon.
Well. A Prime Minister who describes himself as a European is giving $500 million to the European Space Agency to create good jobs in Europe. And it gets worse because the Harwell Science and Innovation Campus, where the European Space Agency will be is located in the UK, is 50% owned by Brookfield. Rather than focusing on lining the pockets of Brookfield and not ripping off Canadian workers, why don't they invest in Canada?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Industry.
Mr. Speaker, it's unfortunate that the other side doesn't recognize the key role that space investments play in our country and our national innovation, especially in a critical year for Space for Canada, where we're sending not one but two astronauts into space. This is an incredibly exciting time for Canada and Canadians to be inspired by the potential of space and space in our economy, and I hope the other side reconsiders their opposition to this.
For Dufferin-Caledon.
It's an incredibly
incredibly exciting time if you're a shareholder in Brookfield right now, let me tell you, with all the slimy contracts that these guys are giving to companies affiliated with Brookfield. Meanwhile, we have 2.2 million Canadians lining up at food banks. Meanwhile, we have a 6.9% unemployment rate. And what do they decide to do? Invest $500 million to give jobs to Europe. How is the priority of this government to give jobs to Europeans when there's a 6.9% unemployment in Canada and 2.2 million people using a food bank? Justify that.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, when it comes to the most innovative things that we can do as a country, we often do them together and with other countries. So, for instance, a former member of this House, a former minister in this former government, the Honourable late Mark Garneau, he went on an American spacecraft, and there was a key piece of Canadian technology that was deployed as part of that, the Canadarm, a piece of technology on which we should all be proud on both sides of this House. So as we continue to cooperate with our European partners on this, let's see the bigger picture and see how the benefits can come to Canada with this investment.
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent, Akiawenrak. Mr. Speaker, for the past 10 years, since the Liberals took office, bureaucracy has ballooned by 80%, yet quality of public services has not improved in tandem. In fact, 950,000 calls were made to the Canada Revenue Agency last year because Canadians could not access online CRA services or their own files. That's the result of 10 years of Liberal management and government. It's the same in my county and in my riding, and I'm sure it's the same in all of the members' riding offices. There are dozens of calls each week to our riding offices from constituents who are struggling in dealing with the CRA. That's the situation after 10 years. Why aren't they fixing it? The Honourable Minister of Government Transformation. Mr. Speaker, it's true that the situation at the CRA was unacceptable, so our government took swift action to deliver quick, effective, reliable service to Canadians. And now our plan is working. It's true, we have doubled call center capacity. Now 10% of callers receive a reply within 15 minutes, and all Canadians have access to their MyCRA account online without having to call the CRA. So our plan is working, and there's the proof. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Drummond. Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Heritage doesn't care at all about private media. There were 800 layoffs at Québecor. The minister stands idly by. Cogeco and Bell Media call for help. The minister won't lift a finger. He's as indifferent to the media crisis as the Prime Minister is to the climate crisis, Mr. Speaker. Does the minister realize that his indifference and stubborn refusal to support private broadcasters worsens the media crisis? The Honourable Minister of Identity and Canadian Culture. Mr. Speaker, I have the utmost respect for my Bloc Québécois colleague, but the Bloc is acting like a firefighter who sets fires and then puts it out themselves. They say, oh, there's a fire, but then they are throwing oil on the fire. How so? Well, they voted against our budget, which would give $38 billion to local media, $150 million to Radio-Canada CBC. That would help media across the country. That would help with local culture and content production in Quebec and throughout the country. What did they do, Mr. Speaker? They voted it down. The Honourable Member for Drummond. Well, this is a former environmentalist speaking. Very interesting. Now, the government just scrapped the digital services tax. It could have funded a fund to support diversity of information and Quebec culture. The government isn't doing a thing for private broadcasters, and when the government is asked about it, they reply, oh, well, we're funding the public sector, as if the broadcasting system were only public, and too bad for the private sector. This prompted columnist Yasmin Abdel-Fadel to say that the minister spat on TVA artists who lost their jobs. What will it take for the minister to jump to action and help private broadcasters? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, in the budget tabled by my colleague, the Minister of Finance, there are tax credits for local journalism. The Bloc voted against it. There are initiatives for local journalism. The Bloc Québécois voted against that, Mr. Speaker. In the budget, there's $150 million for our public broadcaster. The Bloc Québécois voted nay. That's the biggest content producer of culture in Quebec. The Bloc Québécois voted against that. How do they have the gall, the nerve to rise in this place and tell us that we're not supporting journalism, that we're not...
It's fascinating what Québécois and the Liberals fight over their socialist crumbs, right? Oh, you're not funding your green scam enough, or so they fight against that. And now, of course, the government, which is funding government-funded media through the CBC, through the QCJO tax revenue regulations that they have, and a number of other bills that they have through that push their favorite media through. Now, why are we funding this media? Why? Why are we funding private media? It's private media. They should be able to fund themselves. And if they can't, then obviously their funding model is wrong. Why are we reinforcing failure? Why? Because they love to control the message. Without this funding, they wouldn't be able to control the message, and they know it. And it's the same thing with the Bloc Québécois. They require their own media to keep pushing their far left narrative as well. So now they're crying over the tax crumbs because once the conservatives get in, because this government will fall eventually, once they do, all this funding is going to get cut, right? Hopefully, they're going to cut this bloody funding because you can't trust a media that is funded by the government. And of course, they're making it, they've gotten used to these socialist crumbs now, so now they will want it forever. Right? It's just if you introduce UBI, they'll want it forever. You introduce free lunches, they want it forever. This is a bad path that Canada is on.
That is outrageous, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable-Lotbinière. It's no secret we are dealing with the most costly government in Canadian history. Each and every dollar that this Prime Minister spends without any restraint, Mr. Speaker, means that there's no more money in Canadians' pockets. Canadians are dealing with food insecurity. What does that mean, Mr. Speaker? It means that Canadians cannot afford groceries. In this budget, the Prime Minister chose to increase the price of fuel with hidden taxes. Why does the Prime Minister want to make food even more expensive for Canadians who are already struggling to pay for it? The Honourable Minister of Government Transformation. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. It's always so fascinating to hear the Conservatives in question period day after day repeating the same talking points, the Conservative leaders' talking points. They're talking about imaginary taxes. Yet when it comes to voting for a tax break of $22 billion for 22 billion Canadians, or a school food program for vulnerable Canadians, when it comes to investing in defense, when it comes to investing in productivity, infrastructure like the Port of Quebec, the Port of Saguenay, investing in defense, investing in industry like the Davie shipyard in Quebec, they are absent. They don't vote for any of that. It's really shameful, Mr. Speaker. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable-Lotbinière. Well, you heard it, Mr. Speaker. He just listed off the endless, limitless spending that the government has put in its budget. That's what Liberals are. Meanwhile, more and more Canadians have to use their credit cards to feed themselves. They have to eat on credit. They have to empty their bank accounts to have to eat. And for 80% of Canadians, the cost of food is the most costly item for their budget. The Prime Minister, meanwhile, just keeps spending and spending, hiking the price of food. Why are the Liberals determined to make Canadians poorer when 25% of Canadians are already too poor to feed themselves? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, it is unbelievable to hear the opposition talk about limitless spending. And in the same breath, they talk about the school food program that would have decreased child hunger by 40% in Canada. There are plenty of people who would have benefited from that in his riding. Another example, the Canada Dental Care Program, it would have helped thousands of people in his riding. It's shameful. It's outrageous. I invite him to change his mind. I know, though, that deep within himself, he's probably happy that his leader was hiding behind the budget, and he was hoping that the budget would pass because it's a great budget and he knows it. The Honourable Member for Montmorency-Charlevoix. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals just managed to make their budget squeak by this week. It is the highest deficit budget in Canadian history. They are recklessly spending future generations of Canadians' money. In fact, the main budget pressure for 80% of Canadians is food, and 25% of Canadian households are struggling to purchase food. They are experiencing food insecurity, Mr. Speaker. And to make things worse, the Parliamentary Budget Officer has stated that hidden Liberal taxes will increase prices at the pump by 17 cents a litre. Canadian families are struggling. Why did the Liberals just keep adding more hidden taxes which drive up the cost of food? The Honourable Secretary of State for Nature. Mr. Speaker, it's true that things are not always easy for Canadians. What's important, though, is we need to give Canadians back their purchasing power. In order to do so, we are supporting Canadians in a host of ways. We are supporting families. We are supporting through the Canada Dental Care Program, PharmaCare, the school food program. These are all examples of how we are giving Canadians back their purchasing power. Not to mention all the other huge investments so that Canadians will have good, well-paying jobs. That's what it means to build Canada better and stronger and react to today's crisis.
Speaker, this Liberal government is the most expensive in Canadian history. Every dollar the Prime Minister spends comes out of the pockets of Canadians and drives up the cost of everything, especially food. The St. Thomas Elgin Food Bank is seeing record demand. 4 out of 5 Canadians say food is their top expense pressure, and the Liberals are standing by their industrial carbon tax, which makes it more expensive to grow, ship, and sell food. Not only are they not scrapping it, they're increasing it. Why is the Prime Minister making life more expensive for Canadians when they can't even get by as it is?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Well, Mr. Speaker, that's a bit rich coming from Poilievre's biographer, but let's talk.
We're not supposed to do that. We're not supposed to do that. The Honourable Member knows. The Honourable Member's an experienced politician who's been on the Hill for a long time. She may continue, however.
Mr. Speaker, let's talk about 2 of the main areas of costs for families. Let's talk about taxes and let's talk about housing. This budget cuts taxes for 22 million Canadians, bringing the basic tax rate down from 15 to 14%. This is a major tax cut. It's about $5 billion a year in tax relief for Canadians. 85% goes to the lowest income tax brackets alone. And then on housing, Mr. Speaker, we're making the biggest investment in housing in Canadian history. We are building up the supply of homes, bringing...
The Honourable Member for Elgin, St. Thomas, London South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate the plug for my book. If the member read books instead of talking points, the country would be in a better place. Food prices have risen almost 40% faster in Canada than the United States. Beef up 17%, chicken 6.2%, and now the Liberals are adding a fuel tax that will make gas 17 cents a litre more expensive. Driving in my riding in rural Canada is not a luxury, it is a necessity. A tax on gas is a tax on life. When will the Liberals get real and make life more affordable?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, I think it depends on the types of books that a member might want to read. But let's talk about it. Let's talk about books. Mr. Speaker, this week in this House, the Canadian Association, the Canadian Alliance of Student Associations has been on the Hill representing students from across the land. Here is what Abdul Abbasi, the chair of CASA and a student from the University of Alberta, had to say about this budget. Students are pleased to see that the government has met CASA's call for tens of thousands of student jobs in growing economic sectors. This budget is for them. So if the member opposite wants to talk about how education builds...
The Honourable Member for Brampton Centre.
Mr. Speaker, all Canadians deserve to feel safe within their communities. We have critical legislation before this House that is getting stalled by conservative political antics. Will the Minister of Public Safety tell Canadians what our government is doing to combat extortion, strengthen enforcement, and protect Canadians across this country? Thank you.
Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, let me thank the member for Brampton Centre for incredible hard work and advocacy. Our government is taking real action to stop those who commit extortion, Mr. Speaker. The Conservatives, however, have failed to support measures like lawful access that law enforcement across Canada have been asking us to implement. They won't support Bill C-2. They won't support Bill C-12. They won't support C-14. They won't support higher hiring 1,000 new RCMP personnel and 1,000 new CBSA officers. Canadians expect, Mr. Speaker, for their oppositions to work together with their government. Let's stop the rhetoric.
The honourable member.
Is the stupidest, most dangerous man in Canada to be in a position as justice minister. Half the stuff he said was absolute fabrications, and it's just insane that he is allowed to continue in his position, especially when he's lost track of 12,000 people who've committed crimes in Canada that are immigrants, and they have arrest warrants out for 20,000 more that they can't find. Right. And whenever they say the opposition voted against this or voted against that, what he's not getting into is all these little committee antics. So the liberal that was asking the question says, oh, conservatives are stalling. Yeah, let's call committee work. Because when the bills go into committee, they need to be torn apart and fixed, because then you have representatives from across Canada who get their input into these bills so that all the regions are represented, not just those that have elected far left wackos in the Liberal Party. That's how a liberal democracy works. That's how a parliamentary democracy works, not a liberal totalitarian authoritarian hellhole that we now currently live in, that they want, because they just want everyone else to shut up, be quiet, and they don't want to engage with them, and they just want everyone to do what they're told, right? That's how the liberals function. Do what you're told.
Mr. Speaker, these liberals are running like a traveling circus. Take the F-35 procurement, for example. Justin Trudeau said he'd never buy the F-35s. Then the Liberals ordered the F-35s later. Now, this Prime Minister started another review. Then the Minister of National Defence said the review will be done by the end of last summer. But the Secretary of Defence Procurement says, wait, there's no rush. And meanwhile, nobody can figure out what the Ministry of Industry is actually doing. So once and for all, when will this unnecessary review finally end? And who's actually in charge of buying fighter jets over there?
The Honourable Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, as part of our generational investments in the Canadian Armed Forces, we are procuring a new fleet of fighter aircraft for the Royal Canadian Air Force. We review all procurement approaches responsibly to align with the best interests of Canadians and the needs of the CAF. We are committed to procuring what the Air Force needs while ensuring economic benefits for Canadians.
Honourable member for Selkirk Interlake Eastern.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Defence Minister has said that he would take the lead from the Canadian Armed Forces and experts. Well, military experts could not be more clear. Buy the F-35s. His Chief of Defence Staff said it. His Commander of the Air Force has said it. His Deputy Minister has said it. And now over a dozen retired Air Force generals have said it. By dragging on this unnecessary review, these Liberals are undermining our national security and our reputation with our allies. Yes. When will the Defence Minister finally listen to the experts and buy all 88 F-35s that our pilots need to defend Canada?
That they're not going to purchase them in this budget is the same reason that they didn't put in the submarines in the budget, because it would have thrown that figure over $100 billion. Well, it's $100 billion just to purchase submarines themselves over the time span, right? So they can amortize that so much in each year's budget, but it's still $100 billion. And those F-35s are costing more than twice as much than the first time we made a contract to buy them that the Liberals canceled. So it's like the EH-101 debacle all over again, where we had a plan, where we were going to have some of our own avionics industry out in the East Coast. I was going to be part of this trilateral agreement to build the EH-101. And French ain't come in, cancel that project. And what did we end up buying? The EH-101. As a cormorant, we bought less of them for far more money. And of course, we lost out on the avionics industry that would have been part of that aircraft, selling it to other nations. So now it's an even worse position because now we've got this F-35 issue. And it's not just this waste. Within the military itself, we've had people back and forth to the south, back and forth over the body, getting ready to introduce it, not introducing, getting ready to introduce it, not introducing it. And then, of course, we have an aging fleet of F-18s that can't perform their mission because it's taking longer and longer to keep them serviceable. My God, we're in a clown world.
To repeat, Mr. Speaker, we will be purchasing new planes for the armed forces. We are carefully examining procurement so that it aligns with Canadian interests and the needs of the force. We will purchase what the Air Force needs whilst taking into account economic benefits for Canada. It's very simple, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Calgary, Nose Hill.
Yesterday, a shocking expose by Global News outlined how in 2016 the Liberals allowed a Syrian national named Omar al-Qassib, who is a financier of Hamas, to claim refugee status in Canada. On Tuesday, officials revealed that the Liberals have launched a one-touch program that allows refugee claimants to self-declare whether or not they are terrorists when entering Canada. How many Hamas operatives and other terrorists have the Liberals granted refugee status to in the last 10 years?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary for the Minister of Citizenship and Immigration.
Mr. Speaker, I would urge colleagues across the way to think twice about putting on the floor of the House of Commons unverified reports from anonymous sources, Mr. Speaker. Security is of paramount importance in this country. That is a sacrosanct principle upheld by successive Conservative and Liberal governments. We maintain that principle from start to finish. As for the comments about the program that was talked about at Immigration Committee, the member knows better.
The Honourable Member for Calgary, Nose Hill.
For those listening at home, that translates to, they don't know. Global News also reported that an astonishing 450 people with assorted roles in Hamas now have ties to Canada. Last week, the minister was unable to say how many non-citizen criminals and terrorists the Liberals have granted to in an official request. And now Global News is revealing that this terrorist financier has already passed the citizenship test and is awaiting a final decision. How many other terrorists are the Liberals in the process of granting citizenship to?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Continue to cite anonymous sources on the floor of the House of Commons, Mr. Speaker. The reality is, Mr. Speaker, the reality is that security remains always a fundamental responsibility that we take seriously. When security agencies become aware of potential threats to this country, they act accordingly, and we trust them to do that. As for the point that was raised before, relating to what was discussed this week at Immigration Committee, I say the member knows better because she knows very well that our security system is not upheld by an app, that checks, criminality checks, national security checks, all of these checks are carried out before anyone is allowed in this country, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Wellington, Halton Hill North.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has said that the biggest threat to the security of Canada is Beijing's foreign interference. Parliament passed a law to create a registry to combat this interference a year and a half ago. The government said it would be up and running by year end. The government must consult with opposition leaders and introduce a motion to appoint a commissioner. There's only 3 weeks left before Christmas adjournment. When will the government consult opposition leaders and introduce a motion to appoint a commissioner?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank my colleague for the very important question. I just want to assure him, as well as this House, that we'll be moving forward in short order to bring forward the name to the opposition and to have a motion before the House.
The Honourable Member for Wellington, Halton Hills North.
Mr. Speaker, last election, some candidates were vetoed for foreign interference and others were targeted. And CSIS Director Dan Rogers said just last week that China and Russia continue to target Canada. We've had one federal election without a registry, and we could have a second one at the speed that this government operates. So where is the sense and urgency in getting this registry up and running? Where are the speeds not seen in generations? Where are the consultations with opposition leaders? And where is the motion?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, let me take this opportunity to thank the men and women of CSIST in the work that they do each and every day to protect Canadians. I also want to once again assure my colleague opposite that we will be bringing forward a name in short order, and we will ensure that there's adequate consultation that comes before the House, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for Mission Matsqui, Abbotsford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Extortion threats in British Columbia are up 481% since 2015. The Liberals voted against our Conservative plan a year ago that would have tackled this crisis with mandatory jail time and removing house arrest as an option for extortion with a firearm. Since their refusal to act, thousands of new extortion cases have exploded across Canada. What do the Liberals have to say to those businesses and victims of crime who have suffered due to their inaction?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, what we have to say to Canadians is that we have a bill in front of the House, Bill C2, that has very important provision called lawful access that will ensure that crimes such as extortion is dealt with in an efficient and speedy manner, Mr. Speaker. This is what law enforcement across Canada, from Abbotsford to every part of the country that I've visited over the last 6 months, have been asking for. It is a bill, it is a component of the bill that's so essential. However, the party opposite has continuously refused to bring forward and to accept lawful access as a very basic principle of Canadian criminal law.
The Honourable Member for Vaughan Woodbridge.
Vaughan, York Region Police recently charged a local man with 4 counts of extortion. This is just one case among countless all across the country. In fact, extortion is up 330% since 2015 all across the country. And despite this, the current Liberal Minister of Justice voted against our Conservative plan to end the extortion crisis last year. A year, Mr. Speaker. They could have been proactive and supported our plan a year ago, and instead they waited for the fire to get out of control. So will they apologize to the thousands of victims who had to suffer because of their inaction?
Yes. Hear, hear. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, it's always funny when I get up in this House and I hear the critic for immigration talking about immigration, that when they systematically slap down any possibility of improving our immigration system prior to the last election. Yes. And now the member for Vaughan Woodbridge stands up and dares ask, what tools are we putting in place to prevent extortion? He's in the way. Tell the whip to get his boot off the neck of C2 so we can give lawful access provisions to our police to prevent, detain, arrest, and jail extortionists in this country.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Skyview.
Mr. Speaker, extortion in Canada has exploded by 330% since 2015. Canadians are being terrorized. People are dying. Homes are being sprayed with bullets. And what does the Liberals do? Nothing. Shame. In Calgary, a woman who was convicted in helping with extortion walked away with just 6 months of house arrest, all because of Liberals' soft on crime policies. We presented our Conservative plan a year ago, and Liberals voted it down. What does Minister have to say to the victims for his inaction?
Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, what needs to happen is that the rhetoric needs to stop from across the aisle. What we need to do, Mr. Speaker, is right in front of the House. We have Bill C2, Mr. Speaker, that has lawful access as a very important principle of criminal law. We have Bill C12, the Strong Borders Act. We have C14 that speaks to the need for bail reform as well as sentencing, Mr. Speaker. These are smart criminal justice reforms that's meant to keep Canadians safe, including those who are experiencing extortion, Mr. Speaker. It's time to get serious and for the Conservative Party to come forward and pass this legislation.
The Honourable Member for Riverdale-Mille-Île. Mr. Speaker, public transit is essential to reducing congestion, supporting economic growth and improving the quality of life for Canadians in urban centres from coast to coast to coast. Last week's announcement regarding the REM represents an important step in my riding towards sustainable transportation and improved mobility in the Greater Montreal area. Can the Minister inform the House how this project will strengthen public transit and support our broader efforts to build a cleaner, and better connected future for Canadians. The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, the announcement on the REM is a significant step forward for sustainable transportation in Montreal, but also for Quebec as a whole. The inauguration of the Deux-Montagnes branch will transform the way more than 170,000 people, families, workers and students travel every day. There will be major economic benefits, including the creation of 1,000 permanent jobs in the long term. It will also reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 100,000 tonnes per year. This is an ambitious project worthy of Quebecers and worthy of a strong Canada.
The honourable member for Newtecumseg-Gwillimbury.
Look out, Mr. Speaker, there he goes again. It seems like the Prime Minister just can't wait to jump on a plane and leave the country and at any opportunity he gets. He's been everywhere, to the U.S. twice, then to Italy, Mexico, and Poland, Belgium, the Netherlands, and so many other countries, right across the globe, and now back to the UAE, and yet Canadians are worse off than ever as the cost of living skyrockets faster than the Prime Minister's air miles. Can the Liberals name one tariff that's been reduced because of all that travel?
The Honourable Minister of International Trade.
Mr. Speaker, we are taking a Team Canada approach to opening new global markets for Canadian workers and businesses. The member opposite should talk to Conservative premiers who applaud the Prime Minister's leadership on the world stage. Let me quote Premier Moe, "We welcome the Prime Minister's efforts to raise Canada's credibility in the international sphere." Premier Doug Ford thanked the Prime Minister for getting Canada out front. Now is not the time to retreat behind curtains like some of the members opposite do. It's time to lean forward and build Canada strong.
Member for Newtecumseg-Gwillimbury.
Speaker, it sounds like any progress on reducing tariffs for Canadians is still up in the air, just like the Prime Minister. Zero results and zero tariffs removed, and that's not good enough. Not when investment in Canada is down $47.6 billion, when our country has the worst per capita growth in the G7, and when Canadians' families are struggling to eat, heat, and house themselves. Mr. Speaker, is this why the Prime Minister is always traveling? So he doesn't have to see the consequences his failures have brought on this country?
The Honourable Minister of Artificial Intelligence and Digital Innovation.
All right, instead of reading his air miles plan, why don't you read the budget? The only word that the opposition seems to know is no. It's time.
The honourable member should, I'm not going to comment on what I've read recently in the budget or not, but if he could go through the chair, he may continue.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the honourable member for counting air miles instead of reading the budget, but I will say, Mr. Speaker, the only word the opposition seems to know is no. It's time to say yes to building Canada. It's time to say yes to the National School Food Program. They said no. It's time to say yes to building affordable homes. They said no. It's time to say yes to investing in our national defence. They said no. It's time to say yes and build Canada strong.
The honourable member for Bow River.
Brookfield, air miles, I don't know. Mr. Speaker, every time the Prime Minister's wheels up, Canadian bank accounts go down. The Prime Minister has taken 28 trips travelling far enough to circle the Earth almost 4 times. And what do Canadians have to show for it? Nothing. No new trade deals, no concrete wins, just photo ops, fancy meetings, hollow letters of intent that never return real results. He met with China, higher tariffs on canola. They visited India, tariffs on yellow peas. Meetings in Washington, higher tariffs on softwood. Meetings in the UK, crickets for beef and pork. So I ask, is he even trying to get tariffs removed, or just rack up more air miles?
That was a question, wasn't it? Okay. The Honourable Minister of International Trade.
Canadians know that 2/3 of our economy is powered by trade. We are opening doors for Canadian products to reach new markets. We've signed new trade deals with Ecuador, with Indonesia. We wrapped up an investment agreement with the UAE. We're advancing negotiations with ASEAN, Philippines, and Thailand. And we have a bill before this House to expand our trade ties with the UK. We are laser focused on opening new markets for Canadian workers and businesses. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Spadina Harbourfront.
Mr. Speaker,
Mr. Speaker, last weekend was a defining moment for sport in Canada as the Northern Super League, our country's first professional women's soccer league, held its inaugural championship final at BMO Field in my riding of Spadina Harbourfront. Can the Secretary of Sport share with Canadians how our government is investing in women's sport, including the recent $5.4 million commitment to the Northern Super League to boost local economies and bring communities together?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Sport.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank my friend and colleague from Spadina Harbourfront, somebody who knows a thing or two about the fight for gender equity in sport and beyond, Mr. Speaker. We are seeing remarkable progress and momentum in women's professional sport across this country, and a smart, sustainable business model has built the Northern Super League, and it's redefining what's possible in Canada with professional women's sport. That's why 5 of Canada's regional economic development agencies have come together to back the Northern Super League with a strategic federal support of up to $5.45 million. We are helping to strengthen the league's foundation and create new opportunities for fans, communities, and nations and athletes nationwide, Mr. Speaker. I want to congratulate the Vancouver Rise on winning the Diana B. Matheson Trophy, and congratulate the Super League on
the Honourable Member for Niagara South.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has circled the globe 4 times, meeting with world leaders for photo ops, meaningless letters of intent, and 0 investments. He's returned with nothing, and after 28 trips, Canadians are fed up. After meeting with China, China imposed more tariffs. After meeting with India, India imposed more tariffs. When he went to the UK, crickets. He went to Washington, and Trump imposed more tariffs. Why is it whenever the Prime Minister hops on a plane for another photo op, Canadian families get stuck with higher tariffs?
Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I want to end this question period, at least the Conservative question. We started this question period talking about a very unfortunate quote from the member from Calgary, Midnapore. I want to draw your attention, Mr. Speaker, to a quote from the member for Algonquin, Renfrew, Pembroke, that I don't think really elevates the late nature of debate in this House. She said, in referring to the budget, they would rather die than suffer the way this Liberal government had been making them suffer. I would invite that member to retract her comment. I don't think these excesses of language and quite obviously patently false entries into debate serve anyone.
Well, is the member we'll have to deal with this afterwards.
Make him answer the question, though. Make him answer the question.
The Honourable Member for Rosemont-la-Petite-Patrie. While the Prime Minister is visiting the United Arab Emirates this week, horrific massacres continue to be perpetrated in Sudan. The Rapid Support Forces, supplied by weapons, with weapons by the UAE, have killed thousands of civilians, and Canadian weapons are reportedly being used in these atrocities. Canada exports millions of dollars worth of arms to the UAE. Will the Prime Minister put an end to these arms deliveries and suspend Canadian defence cooperation with this country until it stops supporting the RSF in Sudan? Or will Canada... End of question inaudible for the interpreter.
I
don't know if I could be informed if the sound was cut part of the question. The sound was cut during part of the question. Can the member start again? Halfway through, there was a cut in the sound. Whilst the Prime Minister is visiting the United Arab Emirates this week, horrific massacres continue to be perpetrated in Sudan. The Rapid Support Forces, supplied with weapons by the UAE, have killed thousands of civilians. And Canadian weapons are reportedly being used in these atrocities. Canada exports millions of dollars worth of arms to the UAE. Will the Prime Minister put an end to these arms deliveries and suspend Canadian defence cooperation with this country until it stops supporting the RSF in Sudan? Or will Canada continue to be complicit in yet another horrific war? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister for Foreign Affairs. Thank you. Canada condemns the atrocities happening in Sudan. They have to stop. We are horrified by the recent attacks in Al-Fasher, and we condemn the presumed massacre of 2,000 civils. Everyone must protect civilians and must allow unfettered access to humanitarian aid. Canada will continue to support the Sudanese people, as it has done from the very beginning of the conflict. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Nunavut.
The government has legal obligations to First Nations children, but the minister has stopped doing the work. This inaction is costing children their lives. The National Children's Chief Commission is being ignored. The Liberals would rather pay lawyers to fight with First Nations children. Will the minister commit to permanently stop discriminating against First Nations children, or will she continue to make lawyers rich?
And the honourable Minister of Indigenous Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First Nations children need to be guided by self-determination, and that is the pull that we are using to proceed with this work. I have on multiple occasions met with many people looking to serve and bring forward solutions for Indigenous children in community, and I think this is what I invite my colleague to do with me, is to find that path forward and respond to the urgency that is needed in this file for solutions that will deliver the proper care for children surrounded by their family in community in their own language by those that care for them the most. Thank you.
And that concludes question period. That concludes question period. I would just like to, okay, no points of order? Yes, the honourable member for, what's the writing? Algonquin, Renfrew.
I'd like to respond to that point of order. And I was relaying what my constituent had said to me when they first announced that MAID was looking at allowing for people suffering from mental illness to apply for MAID. And what she told me is that she told her doctor as soon as it's available, she wanted to be euthanized because she couldn't take bearing not being able to eat, pay the rent, or pay the heat.
Understood. Okay, j'aimerais tout simplement aviser.
I would like to.
Yes, the honourable parliamentary secretary to the House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I do have the actual quote that I think it's really important because the member does owe an apology, not to the House of Commons, but to Canadians, Mr. Speaker. And I would quote the member in terms of what it is that she said. There are older people in my riding who just cannot pay the rent or the electricity bill.
This is debate. This is debate. I'm sorry. Yeah, we're getting into we're slipping into debate. We're slipping into debate. The House Leader brought this up during question period, and so I permitted the member to clarify or to attempt to clarify, but I consider this case closed, really, to be honest. Just to let members know that the volume on the earpieces has been turned back down.
Well, I knew it. I knew it as soon as they were referring to my prior MP. She was my quite a few years until I moved out of well, that riding into the riding that I am at now. And you know, she's made some bad decisions and she's made some good decisions, but she has represented Renfrew and the area since she took over from a prior Liberal MP who held that seat for a generation himself as well. So that seat has been fully conservative since I guess the Liberals stopped being Liberal, since they decided to go crazy far left, apparently. And so, of course, the Liberals, right? Oh, it's the nuance. You got to get the words right. You know, my God, man, what? They have no humanity whatsoever. None whatsoever. Here you have somebody whose life has just been turned into poop by Liberals. And she said it, right? They don't even want to live anymore. They can't afford to eat. They can't afford to pay the rent. They can't afford the heat. What kind of life is that in Canada after so many years? And how do the Liberals react? Oh, well, you know, the words that a person said about their misery, you didn't get the quote quite right. What a bunch of doofuses. What a bunch of doofuses. Well, one more thing that was mentioned there was the weapons of war. That's nice, Mr. NDP. You want to bring that issue up, but the problem is, once you make a weapon of war and you sell it, you've lost control of it. It doesn't matter where it goes. It doesn't matter if we sold it to Ukraine, it goes on the black market. It doesn't matter if we sell it to another Western nation and then they end up selling it to somebody else. These are all contracts that, have been established either during the past 10 years under the Liberal government or contracts that started in industries under the prior government. One of the few industries that are still running in Canada, and it's only a matter of time before they close down and move down to the south as well, right? Especially if you got more far left weebs like this going, whoa, we can't make anything to defend ourselves. And then, once you make that, you want to be able to make some more, you maybe make a good product, you want to sell it to somebody else. That the NDP, they have no concept whatsoever on how to run a nation. They have no concept. They think money grows on trees and they think the borders don't exist. So that very fact right there tells you that they have no concept of what it takes to run a nation. All right, well, that brings us to a conclusion today. Join us tomorrow morning at 9 for Blazing Cat for Fridays. And then we will be back again after that. An hour after that show finishes at 10:30 for the no answer period. I'll bring the question period once again, as they always start earlier on Fridays. Of course, Fridays in the House is always very, very empty as most of the MPs leave for the weekend. So we don't always get some good exchanges, but we did last Friday. Well, who knows? Who knows? Maybe Carney will parachute in from his recent business trip. No, of course he won't. All right, for an outro, we have the video from the day prior. I believe it's 80 slogans to travel around the planet or something like that. And then we'll finish off with our basic intro, and we will see you tomorrow. Thanks for coming out. I really appreciate you people watching again. Please like, share, subscribe, and leave some comments to drive the algorithm. And the chat is still up. We'll be up for until these video runs. And once those are done, I'll be an outro chat, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Canada, moving forward, building the country, protecting our community. Do you need to negotiate more with the opposition?
Prime Minister, can you talk a little bit about your reaction to the budget and also the fact that you have agreed with Elizabeth May in regards to meeting the Paris climate targets? At the same time, you want to sign an MOU with Alberta in regards to the pipeline. How are you going to square that?
Well, first off, let me just say that
very pleased that we passed the budget vote. There are more votes, of course, to come through the budget process, but an important step for our country. Protecting our communities, protecting our borders, protecting our way of life, building our country, building locally, building new trade infrastructure, building as an energy superpower, goes to your question. And Canada is blessed. We're blessed with immense natural resources, everything from hydroelectricity through to conventional oil and gas. We're part of an energy transition. We're going to help to lead it. That means Alberta, that means Quebec, that means Ontario, that means all of Canada, it means all forms of energy. And then last and most importantly, this is about empowering Canadians. It's about helping all Canadians get ahead. As I say, protecting our way of life, protecting our transfers to Canadian, getting affordability back established through a tax cut, as well as our essential social programs, everything from the National Food Program through to health care, child care, pharmac care, dental care. All of that is in the budget. I salute the 170 members of the House who supported it. I'm glad it came through, and we're going to continue to work.
I just want to say it's a great pleasure. There's something special when you come out west and in Vancouver. I'm grateful to the Vancouver Board of Trade. A great meeting this morning with business leaders, community leaders, scholars, researchers. For me, the budget 2025 speaks to people of Vancouver, speaks to British Columbians, speaks to businesses here, because this is an investment budget that puts Canadians front and center. There's a lot of measures that speaks to people from that part of the country. Obviously, we say we want to double our export, and obviously this is a Vancouver and the whole British Columbia is going to be the gateway to growing our export to the Indo-Pacific region. The productivity super deduction we talked about is good news for business owners, small businesses, for entrepreneurs, innovators. We know that this region is very strong when it comes to life sciences, to the digital economy, obviously to natural resources, mining.
If the Conservatives want the truth, we'll tell them the truth.
And there's another celebration coming, and that's Christmas.
The only people who seem to want a Christmas election is this Liberal government.
With the leader of the opposition, that Grinchy guy, time after time after time after time.
And help us avoid a Christmas election that absolutely nobody wants.
Will they vote for a Christmas election that nobody wants?
And not support our budget and cause a Christmas election?
Support the budget and avoid a Christmas election.
And pass our budget and not cause a Christmas election.
So we can avoid a very destructive budget, a very destructive election, rather. Trying to get this budget through so that we can avoid a Christmas election. This budget to pass and to avoid a Christmas election.
By supporting our budget on November 4th and avoiding a Christmas election.
I hope that they will join us in avoiding a Christmas election by supporting the budget.
Speaker, I hope the members opposite will support this budget, avoid a Christmas election.
And we trust they will join us and vote for the budget and avoid a Christmas election.
It can help us pass the budget and avoid a Christmas election. Will they do that?
The only thing more frightening this Halloween than the Conservatives' disinformation in this House is a Christmas election which nobody wants. If they're going to force a Christmas election upon Canadians, there's nothing more spooky than that.
Recklessly. Why does the Prime Minister continue to endanger our public finances? Now, all this business about spending on a credit card, isn't it really just defending and protecting Canada?
If the Conservatives want the truth, we'll tell them the truth.
Yesterday from the Prime Minister really freaked these Conservatives out because they saw the ambition in that speech. And not only did they see it in that speech today, as the Prime Minister stood with the Premier investing in new nuclear to ensure the jobs of today and the future, they know that the youth...
The only thing that's revolting are those answers.
Speaker, we will take no lessons from these Conservatives. Trust me on that, Mr. Speaker.
It's bad that minister didn't write the Prime Minister's speech yesterday, because it wouldn't have bored and depressed to tears all of those poor students stuck in that room. There he spoke about how they would have to sacrifice more and that it would take time to reverse all of the misery that has built up over the last 10 years. Mr. Speaker, young people want to have homes. They want to have jobs. They want to have hope. They want a budget that is affordable so they can have a life that is affordable. Will the Prime Minister introduce that budget so that Canadians can restore the promise of their country?
And we decide what comes next.
Canada know that this government has their back. It will continue. There's going to be a powerful statement for the young people of Canada.
Driving inflation. The more Liberals spend, the more it costs Canadians at the grocery store. 25% of Canadians are using food banks because they can't afford to eat. So when will the Prime Minister finally get his inflationary deficits under control so Canadians can put food on the table?
Mr. Speaker, Conservative members pretend to care about food insecurity, but then they call feeding children garbage.
Mr. Speaker, what's garbage was that answer?
Did the Prime Minister see the ad before it went out?
Of course there are too many people living in poverty in Canada, but there are significant initiatives being put in place by this government.
Being serious means being honest and telling Canadians.
Canada's economy is in fact growing, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in those long, barren Harper years where this member was a minister, the only pipeline that got built was the pipeline full of hot air that led to nothing, not a single